In a quiet hospital room, millionaire Andrew Hart's world shatters as he sees a nurse's bracelet, an exact replica of his missing daughters. Could this be the clue he's been searching for? Andrew Hart sat in the expansive corner office of Hart Industries, his once vibrant world now dulled by a relentless fog of grief. The skyline outside glimmered with opportunity, yet the millionaire felt trapped in a prison of despair. 5 years had passed since the day his daughter, Emily, vanished without a trace, and not a moment went by without the gnawing ache in his heart reminding him of the loss. The memories of Emily flooded his mind like a haunting melody. She was only 10, full of life and laughter, her eyes sparkling with the promise of youth. Andrew had always envisioned a bright future for her, filled with adventures, dreams, and the simple joys of childhood. But that future was stolen in an instant. A school trip that ended in chaos, a momentary distraction, and then nothing. No witnesses, no clues, just silence that screamed louder than any words could convey. In the years that followed, Andrew poured himself into his work, trying to escape the reality of his daughter's absence. He was a self-made man, rising from humble beginnings to build a multi-million-dollar empire. But all the wealth in the world could not mend his broken heart. He had hired private investigators, left no stone unturned, and even enlisted the help of psychics, yet every lead had turned cold. The emptiness felt suffocating, and the burden of grief weighed heavily on his shoulders. Today, however, was different. Andrew had found himself in the hospital after a minor heart attack, a wake-up call he could no longer ignore. As he lay in the sterile room, the beeping machines seemed to echo his own heartbeat, slow, uneven, as if mirroring the turmoil within him. A nurse entered, breaking his reverie, her warm smile a stark contrast to the clinical environment. "Mr. Hart, how are you feeling today?" she asked, her voice gentle yet filled with concern. He managed a half-hearted smile. "Better, I suppose. Just tired, I guess." Andrew had always been a man of few words, his demeanor stoic, even in the face of adversity. But as he looked into the nurse's eyes, he felt a flicker of something he thought he had lost. Hope. Perhaps this was what he needed, a connection, however fleeting, to pull him from the depths of his sorrow. The nurse's name was Sarah, and as she tended to him, Andrew found himself studying her with a sense of curiosity he hadn't felt in years. She was attentive, her hands gentle as she checked his vitals and adjusted the IV drip. Despite his reluctance to engage, he found himself wanting to learn more about her. What brought her to this hospital? What dreams did she hold? For the first time in a long while, he felt a flicker of interest in another person. But the moment was fleeting, shattered by a reminder of his reality. As Sarah walked past him, her wrist caught the light, revealing a delicate bracelet that shimmered with an unmistakable familiarity. It was an intricate piece adorned with charms, each holding memories of childhood innocence. Andrew's breath caught in his throat. The bracelet was identical to the one Emily had worn the day she disappeared. His heart raced, confusion flooding his thoughts. "Where did you get that bracelet?" he asked, his voice trembling with a mix of urgency and desperation. "Oh, this?" Sarah replied, glancing down at her wrist. "It was a gift from my grandmother. She always said it brought good luck." Good luck. Andrew couldn't help but laugh bitterly at the irony. Luck had been a cruel joke in his life. As he gazed at the bracelet, a storm of emotions raged within him. Hope, fear, anger, and an overwhelming desire for answers. Could this simple piece of jewelry hold a connection to his lost daughter? The atmosphere in the room shifted, the air thick with unspoken words. Andrew's mind raced, grappling with the possibility that this nurse, a stranger, might somehow be linked to the very thing that had shattered his life. He had spent years in isolation, drowning in his grief. Yet here was someone who had unknowingly pulled him back to the surface. It was as if the universe was daring him to reach out, to seize the chance for connection. Can I ask you more about it?" he stammered, caught off guard by his own vulnerability. "Of course," Sarah replied, her smile warm and inviting. "I'd be happy to share." In that moment, Andrew realized that perhaps this was the beginning of something new, a chance to unravel the threads of his past and weave them into a future filled with hope. Little did he know that this encounter would set him on a path he never anticipated, one that would challenge everything he thought he knew about love, loss, and the power of human connection. The days blurred together for Andrew as he lay in the hospital bed, surrounded by the sterile scent of antiseptic and the rhythmic beeping of machines that had become his unwelcome companions. But with each new day came Sarah, the nurse who seemed to breathe life into the drab environment. Her presence was like a breath of fresh air, a reminder that there were still people in the world willing to care. Sarah was in her late 20s, with warm brown eyes that sparkled with kindness and determination. Her laughter came easily, as though she had a reservoir of joy hidden beneath her scrubs. She treated her patients with a grace that spoke of her calling, and Andrew found himself drawn to her effortless compassion. Yet within that charm lay a depth he was eager to explore. "Mr. Hart," she said, entering his room one afternoon with a cheerful smile. "How are we feeling today?" "I'm okay, I guess," he replied, his voice tinged with weariness. "Just trying to make sense of everything." Sarah nodded, her expression shifting to one of understanding. "It's a lot to process. I can't imagine what you're going through. If you ever want to talk, I'm here." Andrew hesitated, the walls he had built around his heart trembling under the weight of her sincerity. It had been years since he had shared his pain with anyone. Would it make him weak? The thought of exposing his vulnerability terrified him, yet a part of him yearned for connection. He wanted to share the burden of his grief, to let someone in, even if just for a moment. "What about you?" he asked, deflecting the focus away from his own turmoil. "You seem like you've got your own story." Sarah's smile faltered for a moment, revealing a flicker of something deeper, a shadow of sorrow that crossed her features. "I do. I lost my younger brother to gang violence a few years ago. He was just trying to make a life for himself, you know? It still hurts, but I try to keep going." Andrew felt a pang of sympathy, the familiar ache of empathy intertwining with his own grief. Here was someone who had faced loss, someone who understood the raw edges of heartache. "I'm sorry," he murmured, the words inadequate yet sincere. "Thank you," she said softly, her eyes shimmering with unspoken emotions. "Sometimes it helps to share, even just a little." As they conversed, Andrew found himself opening up in a way he hadn't expected. He told her about Emily, his bright-eyed daughter whose laughter had once filled their home, and how her absence had turned his life into a shadow of what it used to be. With every word, he felt the weight of his sorrow lift, if only slightly, as though sharing it with Sarah made it less of a burden. "I remember the last time I saw her," Andrew said, his voice trembling. "She was so excited about that school trip. I thought she'd be safe. And then—" He paused, emotions surging through him like a tidal wave. "I don't know how to keep going without her." Tears glistened in his eyes, and for the first time in years, he allowed himself to feel vulnerable. It was liberating, yet terrifying. Sarah reached out, her hand resting on his arm in a gesture of solidarity. "You're not alone in this," she whispered. "It's okay to grieve. It's okay to feel lost." Her words wrapped around him like a comforting blanket, easing the raw edges of his pain. In that moment, he realized that Sarah was more than just a nurse. She was a beacon of hope. Their shared experiences forged an unspoken bond, one that transcended the walls of their individual grief. Days turned into weeks, and with each visit, Andrew found himself looking forward to Sarah's presence. She brought laughter and warmth to his otherwise gray existence. They shared stories, exchanged dreams, and even indulged in playful banter that made the sterile environment feel like home. One afternoon, Sarah returned to his room with a small, colorful box. "I thought you could use a little pick-me-up," she said, her eyes twinkling. "What's this?" he asked, curiosity piqued. "Just something to remind you that life has its small joys," she replied, opening the box to reveal a collection of vibrant, handmade bracelets. "I made these. Each one is unique, just like every person." Andrew was taken aback by her thoughtfulness. "They're beautiful," he said, genuinely touched. "But why?" "Because sometimes we need reminders that we're not defined by our grief. We're allowed to celebrate life, even in the midst of pain," she explained. "You've been through so much, Andrew. You deserve a little light." As he slipped one of the bracelets onto his wrist, he felt a surge of warmth, a flicker of hope igniting within him. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a symbol of resilience, a reminder that life could still hold beauty even in the darkest of times. With Sarah by his side, Andrew began to see a glimmer of possibility. Perhaps healing wasn't just about finding Emily. Perhaps it was also about rediscovering himself, allowing joy to seep back into his life. Little did he know, the threads of their lives were about to intertwine in ways he never imagined, setting him on a path toward healing and understanding he had long since thought lost. As the days unfolded into weeks, Andrew and Sarah's bond deepened, transforming from mere patient and caregiver into a connection that felt almost sacred. Each visit brought a renewed sense of warmth, a shared understanding of grief that enveloped them both. It was as if the hospital room had become a sanctuary, a place where they could shed their emotional armor and reveal the vulnerabilities they had carried for far too long. One afternoon, as the sun streamed through the window, casting gentle shadows across the room, Andrew found himself reflecting on the small moments that had begun to color his life. Sarah entered with a bright smile, her hair pulled back in a loose bun, revealing the graceful line of her neck. "Ready for another round of guess what I brought?" she teased, holding a small paper bag behind her back. "What is it this time? More bracelets?" Andrew asked, feigning suspicion. "Oh, you're on the right track," she laughed, pulling out a container filled with vibrant, colorful candies. "These are my guilty pleasure. I figured you could use a sugar rush." He chuckled, taking the container from her. "You know, this could be hazardous to my health," he replied, pretending to scrutinize the contents. "Only if you eat them all at once," Sarah said with a grin, her laughter infectious. "But life is short, right? We need to indulge every once in a while." In that moment, a flicker of joy ignited in Andrew's chest, a sensation he had almost forgotten. As they shared the candies, he could feel the weight of his grief easing, if only slightly. They talked and laughed, sharing stories of their childhoods, their families, and their dreams. "Do you remember being a kid and just believing everything was possible?" Sarah mused, her eyes distant as she recalled simpler times. "I used to think I could be anything. A dancer, an astronaut, a superhero. It's strange how life shifts those dreams, isn't it?" Andrew nodded, his heart aching at the reminder of Emily's dreams. Emily wanted to be a marine biologist. She was fascinated by the ocean, how vast and mysterious it was. She believed she could discover new species and contribute to saving the planet. "Wow, she sounds incredible," Sarah said, her voice filled with genuine admiration. "I can only imagine how proud you must have been of her." A lump formed in Andrew's throat, and he swallowed hard. "I still am, but it's hard to be proud when you feel like you've failed as a father." "Failure isn't defined by loss," Sarah said softly, her gaze steady and understanding. "It's how we respond to that loss that matters. You've been through so much, and you're still standing. That's strength." Her words resonated within him, echoing through the corridors of his mind. Andrew was taken aback by the clarity of her insight. In a world where everyone seemed to tiptoe around his pain, Sarah confronted it head-on, urging him to acknowledge not just his suffering, but his resilience as well. As their conversations deepened, Andrew learned more about Sarah's life, the struggles she faced as a nurse in a system that often undervalued compassion. She shared stories of patients she had lost, each one a thread woven into the fabric of her heart. "It's heartbreaking sometimes," she admitted, "but it also fuels my passion to care. I want to make a difference, however small." Her determination struck a chord within Andrew. He saw in her a reflection of his own fight, an unwavering resolve to keep going, to find meaning even amidst chaos. "You have such a beautiful spirit," he said, touched by her openness. "You've turned your pain into purpose." "I try," she replied, her cheeks flushing slightly. "But I also have my moments of weakness. Some days it's just overwhelming. I think of my brother and how life can be so cruel, and it feels like I'm drowning." Andrew reached out, taking her hand in his. It was a simple gesture, yet it spoke volumes of the bond they had forged. "You're not alone in this, Sarah. I understand what it's like to feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, but together, we can find strength." Their hands lingered for a moment, an unspoken agreement passing between them, a promise to lean on each other, to navigate the turbulent waters of grief together. It was in those shared moments of vulnerability that they discovered a profound emotional connection, one that transcended their individual stories. Weeks turned into a ritual, each visit weaving their lives tighter together. They shared laughter and tears, weaving the tapestry of their experiences into something beautiful. With each new story, Andrew felt a glimmer of hope, a flicker of light piercing the darkness that had engulfed him for so long. One evening, as they watched the sunset paint the sky with hues of orange and pink, Sarah turned to him with a contemplative expression. Do you ever wonder if we're meant to find each other at this moment? Maybe it's the universe's way of reminding us that life goes on, despite the pain. Andrew pondered her words, feeling the weight of their significance. I never believed in fate, but now I'm starting to see the beauty in it. Perhaps this connection is what I needed to start healing. Their eyes met, and in that moment, an understanding blossomed, a shared recognition of the resilience within them both. They were not just individuals bearing the scars of loss. They were two souls navigating the complexities of life, finding solace in one another's presence. As they sat in comfortable silence, Andrew couldn't help but feel that perhaps he had been given a second chance, not just to find Emily, but to rediscover himself through Sarah's unwavering spirit. Each story they shared and every secret they uncovered drew them closer, intertwining their lives in a way that felt destined, as if the universe had conspired to bring them together at this critical juncture. Little did they know, the journey ahead would test their newfound bond, forcing them to confront the shadows of their past and the truths they both sought to uncover. But for now, they were united in their struggles, ready to face whatever came next. The hospital room was filled with a palpable tension as Andrew stared at the wall, his mind racing. The warmth of his connection with Sarah had lit a spark within him, igniting a desire to find the truth about Emily's disappearance. Days turned into weeks, but the haunting questions of what happened to his daughter lingered like a storm cloud over his heart. Andrew, we need to talk, Sarah said one afternoon as she entered the room. Her expression was serious, and Andrew felt a rush of anxiety. I've been thinking, what if we started looking for answers together? What do you mean? He asked, his heart pounding at the thought. I mean, the police have done what they can, but they're stretched thin, Sarah explained, and I know you feel like they've left you with more questions than answers. What if we took a different approach? We could investigate ourselves. Andrew's mind raced with the implications of her suggestion. The thought of taking matters into his own hands was both thrilling and terrifying. He could feel his heart hammering in his chest, yet the idea of doing nothing felt even worse. You're serious? He asked, searching her eyes for any hint of doubt. Absolutely, Sarah replied, her conviction shining through. I've seen you grow stronger since I've known you. You deserve closure, Andrew. Let's find the truth together. He took a deep breath, the weight of uncertainty mixed with a glimmer of hope. Okay, let's do it. Over the next few days, Andrew and Sarah brainstormed their approach. They compiled everything they knew about Emily's disappearance, from the last day she was seen to the various leads that had come up during the initial investigation. They spread out photos of Emily on the hospital bed, her bright smile captured in each snapshot. It felt surreal to be gathering evidence in a place that had become a sanctuary for him. Start from the beginning, Sarah suggested as they reviewed Emily's case file together. Let's retrace her steps from that day. They began by digging into Emily's school life. Andrew remembered how excited she had been to join a new extracurricular club that focused on environmental issues. She was passionate about saving the planet, he shared, his voice laced with pride and pain. But it also made her a target. There were some kids who didn't take her seriously, who made fun of her. Do you think any of them might have wanted to hurt her? Sarah asked, her brow furrowing in concern. I don't know. She had friends, but there were always whispers. You know how kids can be, Andrew said, his heart heavy with memories. But I don't think they would have gone that far. Their investigation led them to Emily's school. Armed with permission from the principal, they met with a few teachers who had known Emily. One of her science teachers, Mr. Larson, spoke highly of her passion, but mentioned a recent change in her behavior. She seemed withdrawn toward the end, he said, his expression serious. I didn't think much of it at the time, but looking back, it was unusual for her. Do you remember anything specific that might have caused it? Sarah probed, taking notes diligently. Mr. Larson hesitated. There was a rumor about some older kids bullying her. I dismissed it, thinking it was just typical teenage drama. Andrew felt a surge of anger at the thought. Why didn't anyone do anything? It's not easy to intervene, especially when the students don't come forward, Mr. Larson replied gently. But I'll never forget her passion. If I had known, I might have acted differently. Their hearts heavy with this new information, Andrew and Sarah left the school. Do you think it could be connected? Sarah asked as they walked through the parking lot. It's possible, Andrew said, deep in thought. But I still can't shake the feeling that there's something more. With each piece of information they gathered, Andrew felt a strange sense of empowerment wash over him. For the first time in a long while, he was actively fighting for Emily, refusing to let her memory fade into the shadows. The burden of his grief began to shift as he focused on uncovering the truth. Later that week, they decided to revisit the park where Emily had last been seen. The familiar sights and sounds enveloped Andrew as he recalled the moments spent there with his daughter. He could almost hear her laughter echoing in the wind. Do you think something happened here? Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know, Andrew replied, feeling the weight of memories crashing over him. But it's possible. I remember she was excited to meet her friends here that day. They wandered the park, retracing Emily's steps. They spoke to other parents and teens who frequented the area, hoping to catch a glimpse of someone who might have seen something. One young girl sitting on a swing caught their attention. She looked to be around Emily's age. Did you know Emily Hart? Andrew asked gently, kneeling down to her level. The girl's eyes widened, and she nodded. Yeah, I saw her that day. She was with her friends, but then she left with someone. Someone? Sarah leaned in, her heart racing. Do you remember who? The girl shook her head. No, but he looked older. They were just talking, and then she left. I didn't think anything of it. Andrew felt his breath hitch in his throat. What did he look like? He was tall and had dark hair. I remember because he was wearing a hoodie. I thought it was weird, but she trailed off, looking at the ground. Thank you so much, Sarah said softly, giving the girl a reassuring smile. You've helped us a lot. As they walked away from the park, Andrew felt the weight of the new information settle in. Do you think that could be a lead? He asked Sarah, his mind racing with possibilities. Absolutely, she replied, her determination igniting once more. We should find out who this guy is. It could be the key to understanding what really happened to Emily. With each passing day, their investigation brought them closer to the truth, but it also deepened the emotional connection between them. Andrew found comfort in Sarah's unwavering support, and Sarah drew strength from Andrew's resolve. Together, they were unraveling the threads of a mystery that had haunted Andrew for far too long. But as they delved deeper, Andrew couldn't shake the feeling that the answers they sought might come with consequences. The truth could shatter the fragile world they had begun to build together, but it was a risk he was willing to take. For Emily, he would confront whatever darkness lay ahead, driven by the hope that justice would prevail and that he would finally find closure. The days turned into a blur as Andrew and Sarah followed the leads they had uncovered together. Each new piece of information revealed a deeper layer of the mystery surrounding Emily's disappearance, but it also bound them closer together. Andrew felt a flicker of hope igniting within him, a hope that maybe, just maybe, they would find Emily and that he could finally bring closure to his grief. After several more interviews and a few more false leads, they finally caught a break. A witness came forward, an older woman who frequently walked her dog in the park where Emily had been last seen. I remember seeing a girl with long hair, she explained, her voice shaky with age. She was arguing with a young man who was trying to convince her to leave with him. It didn't seem right. Did you see what he looked like? Andrew asked, leaning in closer. Just that he had a dark hoodie. But the girl looked scared, like she didn't want to go, the woman said, her eyes filled with concern. I should have called the police. I should have done something. As Andrew listened, he felt a surge of gratitude toward the woman. You did the right thing by coming forward now, he reassured her. You may have given us the clue we needed. Armed with this new information, they presented the details to the police, who took immediate action. Within days, they had tracked down the man. He was a local with a history of trouble, a kid who had been in and out of the system for petty crimes. The police arrested him for questioning, and Andrew felt a whirlwind of emotions, anger, fear, and hope, spiraling within him. While they waited for updates, Andrew and Sarah spent long hours together, exchanging stories and comforting one another. Each moment spent talking deepened their connection. They shared laughter, memories of their past, and dreams for the future. One evening, as they sat on a bench outside the hospital, Sarah turned to Andrew, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I can't imagine how hard this has been for you, but I want you to know that whatever happens, you're not alone anymore." Andrew felt a lump rise in his throat. "I didn't expect to find someone like you during this dark time," he admitted, vulnerability pouring from him. "You've given me strength when I felt weak. I didn't think I could move forward, but now I want to. For Emily and for us." Their hands brushed, and for a moment, everything else faded away. In that small gesture, Andrew felt a warmth spreading through his heart, igniting a flicker of hope that had long been extinguished. Days later, the police made an announcement that would change everything. They had found Emily. She was alive and safe. They revealed that she had been held against her will, but had managed to escape when her captor's attention waned. The relief that washed over Andrew was indescribable. He felt as if he could finally breathe again. "Can you believe it? She's alive!" Andrew exclaimed, tears of joy streaming down his face as he and Sarah embraced tightly. The reunion was bittersweet. As Andrew stood in the hospital room, finally seeing his daughter after so many years of pain, he felt overwhelming gratitude. Emily was fragile, but the fire in her eyes was unmistakable. They held each other tightly, and Andrew swore that he would never let her go again. "I thought I lost you forever," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You're home now." As the days passed, Emily began to heal both physically and emotionally. The trauma of her experience lingered, but Andrew was determined to support her every step of the way. He felt renewed purpose, a drive to create a safe space for Emily and to show her the love and protection she had missed for so long. Sarah, too, became a vital part of their lives. She remained by their side, offering comfort and understanding. Their bond had transformed into something beautiful and genuine. Together, they navigated the challenges of healing and recovery, embracing the journey ahead as a new family. One afternoon, as they sat together in the park where it all began, Andrew realized that their story was not just one of loss, but one of resilience, kindness, and hope. They had found each other amid darkness and discovered the strength that lay in their hearts. "Thank you for being here," Andrew said softly to Sarah, his voice filled with emotion. "I wouldn't want to be anywhere else," she replied, her smile warm and genuine. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow around them, Andrew felt a sense of peace settle within him. They had faced unimaginable pain, but together they were weaving a tapestry of hope, healing, and love. Their journey had just begun, but with Emily back in his arms, Andrew knew that brighter days lay ahead. Together, they would rise, stronger and united, ready to face whatever the future held. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey of love, loss, and resilience. If you enjoyed the story and want to hear more heartfelt narratives like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us share more stories that inspire and touch the heart. Until next time.